Okay, welcome back to Sankarea, Undying Love, Anime Review, Part 2. This one discussing episodes 5 through 8. And I was looking at basically what these episodes were adapted from. 7 is the only one that technically doesn't have for the manga. Nope, it's an anime original episode. A really good one that basically focuses on Rinko. Yeah, it basically kind of highlights basically when she first met Chotaro as a child, when she first met him in the graveyard. And here's the thing, it's the only episode for that Ria is mentioned, but does not make a physical appearance, thus making an anime original episode. So basically, apparently during the summertime, I'm going to talk a little bit about the episodes in a minute. So, now basically, it focuses on basically how when she first met him, and basically introduced the fact that they're cousins. That her father is Chocho's father's brother, despite the fact she's in love with him. She's like 6 months older than he is, and she doesn't do the whole thing of like the man of the fact. She wants to refer to Miss Ranko, like she does in the manga. She only does the beginning, and after that she just stops. Yep. So details the fact that shows the fact that she was not originally into zombie movies much. She apparently was frightened of them. And Chocho basically didn't like zombie movies very much. And apparently he had no problem being around graveyards. But he did, of course, they show later on, basically, he did have a problem with the zombie close up. Well, with the exception of Ria. Then, of course, they go to the video store. Of course, she wanted to begin anime. He got a zombie movie instead. It's like, oh, a hardcore movie. Of course, she wanted to return it because she didn't like it very much. She wanted to get an anime. And then they get friended by a dog. Yes, a dog. Which he's able to fend off the dog, basically by pointing a lead pipe at it. Dog runs away. They go home. And then, of course, Rinko basically kind of, has him. She basically remembers his while they're doing out deliveries. Because first she's seen at her restaurant, at her family restaurant, just cutting up food. And then they do deliveries. Of course, she's wearing kimono. Yeah, don't know why she's wearing kimono at work for. It's kind of odd the fact that, she's wearing one. Excuse me, presumably because she's the waitress, and her mother is the manager of the place, and her father is the cook. Okay, fine. Whatever, and they basically do all these deliveries, and the first place they go is Chotaro's temple. Yep. And after they finish the deliveries up, of course, Chotaro's friends basically decided to run into them, and then Rinko basically, at one point, just while finishing deliveries, basically because Chotaro basically doesn't go home, she basically kind of drags him over, pins him against the wall, and almost looks like she's gonna make out with him. And apparently, he gets sort of grossed out by it for some reason. Yeah, because he doesn't like live girls very much, though she's in love with him. Then, of course, while she yells at outside, and she just that's that. Of course, it's a little bit later on where she goes to a bathhouse where she just hangs out there for a while, and then she just happens to run Chocho's little sister, which of course she decides, even though she already had a bath, she's like, okay, I'm moving for another bath, and so she decides to hang out with the girls, and there's nothing really wrong with it. And of course she goes here in the middle of the day, and that's that for her. Now the thing what happens over the course of the next 2 episodes, it's very civilized. You can tell it's kind of a 2-parter, where Ria basically is kind of, now they don't mention this in the anime very much, but in the manga, Chotaro mentions that Ria is freeloading at his house. So she basically just stays because she can't move because the fact that rigor mortis setting in. So she basically just sleeps in the closet. And of course Rinko goes out to get a movie, and then of course she hears something, and she opens up the closet like, oh, nobody's there. And it is Ria in the ceiling. And then she kind of pins her down. Of course and then she basically just gropes her, and then she proceeds to rip open the top where her chest is, where she proceeds to get this. Now, they would simply show this in the manga, with the anime, what does Ria do to Rinko's chest? She licks it. No joke, she seriously does. Though she's in a trance, so she remembers none of this later. And of course she screams, and of course Chio basically, who's at home because it's day off from school, so clean the temple. His father doesn't do much anything at all. The grandfather just basically is just lazy. I get the fact his father's the priest, but he could at least do something, but nope, he doesn't. So they pretty much, because Rinko finds out about Ria, and of course she He's able to hold off, and of course they make out, which yes, this happened in the manga too. Matter of fact, the end of episode 5, with Rhea in this state make out with Chocho basically, and he also mentions to later on about this. Then he does make up again, though she does remember making out with him later on in the series. That leads to something that kind of sets up the end of the actual manga, which I don't think the anime gets at. So then she basically was able to get out the window, and then she and Babo basically decided to go eat some hydrangea plants, and she returned back normal. And then of course she's still wearing a towel. And she tries to stand up, and the towel falls right off her. And of course, Rinko goes to get the grandfather. Tells about the formula, tells her to get the ranger plans, get some exercise, stuff like that. And of course, we want to cover up by throwing her a white shirt. Yep, a white shirt. So she puts it on, and of course, he asks his father if she can move in for now. He's like, let me think about it. Sure, why not? Because he says this is a place for sanctuary anyway, so why not? And she starts living with them. And the thing is, at first, basically, she wasn't doing it for meals because she didn't think that the way she eats stuff basically would bother them very much. And Mira was like, she can join. I have no problem with making her a meal. And of course, then Chocho starts basically documenting her. They don't do it at all in episode 7. They do resume in episode 8. Which that one adapts chapter 7, yes. Because that's kind of what they do here. It's like, apparently the anime just had to do an anime original episode. So, why not? Throw in episode 7, basically dealing with how Rinko first fell in love with Chicho. She's like the only woman in the series, aside from Rhea, who's got a thing for Chicho. Yeah, it's one of those anime, basically, where I come across where, yeah, multiple women in love with the same guy. And no, they don't really fight over him at all. They might disagree with each other, but as far as I could tell in the manga, with the exception of when they first ran into each other in episode 5, they don't really fight at all over its affections. Not really, no. So, then of course, well, Chicho takes her to a mall because she wants to experience stuff as a normal woman. And of course, she also gets a chance to do some exercise because, well, that'll hold off the decay. So, excuse me. Then, of course, they go shopping, and of course, they go to the haunted house. He doesn't like haunted house very much because that freaks him out, but seeing movies, no problem. So, they also show the fact that apparently her father is having his men follow her around. Yep, so they try to catch up with her in the mall when Chocho basically go get some food. She, of course, eats some hydrangea leaves. Yes, she has to eat hydrangea leaves to maintain her normal state. She has to eat once every few hours, which also she apparently doesn't require any sleep because she's a zombie. I'm thinking, okay, that doesn't make much sense because when I watched the show iZombie, Rose did sleep. Yeah, she slept, no problem. And yet in this series, someone says, oh yeah, zombies don't need sleep. I don't know, it's kind of weird. Also in that series, she eats brains, not hydrangea leaves. That was something they made for this series. The brains thing, that's something in zombie movies, basically. And the creators probably took heavy inspiration from classic zombie movies for the comic book and in the actual live-action TV show. I've watched it. I've watched the first 2 seasons of the show. I haven't got back to it because I'm busy with other stuff, so it's a good show to watch. I do recommend it. If you're into that type of stuff, though, the zombie aspect is kind of toned down, and not everybody's in the crazy zombie state very much because they have a good complement of brains. Yeah, they eat brains in the series, and in case Rose, she actually shown eating with the brains normal food. Yeah, she eats normal food, no problem. In this series, apparently Rhea can only eat hydrangea leaves. But of course, Chicho points out though, hydrangea leaves are not always in season, so what is he going to do until they're in season again? I'm not sure how the season works coming hydrangea leaves. I don't know because I'm not expert on plants. My mother might know because she likes to do planting. So, while they're at the mall, like basically, Rhea's father's men basically tail her around the mall, and then once he goes to the food, they try to take her. And when they get nowhere outside, she basically is able to fend them off, not much problem because of her massive super strength. Then, like, okay, because he beat up, of course, Chocho asks, like, okay, who are you guys, and are you guys working for Rhea's father? They don't say anything else, like, okay, the guy's like, okay, time to go to plan B. Also, I should point out, though, apparently the dub did something really weird. Apparently they have these three guys. I'm not sure what language they're speaking in, but they apparently decided not to have any dubbing for this particular moment. I thought this was kind of weird. This is how I saw in the Funimation episode, this episode 8, with these three guys. Despite the fact they're probably speaking Japanese, they apparently didn't bother to have the actors dub this. That or the fact that, and this is just my personal theory, that maybe in the sub, these guys probably did make a sound when they were talking, when they saw one of Chochiro's friends. So, they decided to go plan B. Kidnap him and take him and basically do something with him. They contact Ria's father and he's like, okay, bring it to me. It's time for he and I to have a talk. And I'll probably take up the last few episodes of the series. Yep, I gotta say so far they do a really good job. I'd say the only mild change they do show is basically they show like sort of in detail of Ria ripping open Renko's top. And also, it kind of looked like though that in the case of they do have a mild change here when in the case of Chochiro's father, not father, or his grandfather, where it looks like though he's about to pull down Renko's top. That's what it looks like in the manga. In the anime, he just basically just grabs her belly and, well, that's also she's also shown whack him in the head when he's trying to give an explanation. That was something added in the anime because that was not shown there. Also, they actually show Chochiro basically go and get the white shirt that Renko puts on. And of course, he does bring up the fact that she did kiss him. He of course writes it off as basically being a zombie sex. She doesn't remember it. But yeah, I gotta say they did a really good job with these episodes. I got hands to the Emerald episode, really good, and I can't wait to discuss the last 4 episodes of the series and the 3 OVAs for the series. Also, and this that was really interesting though, like I was listening to basically Rengo's mother. Like, I figure her voice, like, this sounds so familiar. And I was looking at the credits, like, oh, her mother's voiced by Colleen Clickenbeard. Awesome. Oh, that's a list to basically series, basically her voice. And I didn't expect to hear her to be in this series at all, but great to hear her voice because Colleen Clickenbeard is a damn good voice actor. Also, apparently, and I've just noticed this, apparently Monica Rio writes, of all the episodes I watched, she's written every one. Yeah, she's written all the episodes. She's basically the main scriptwriter who writes pretty much this entire series, which that's interesting. Also, Mike McFarlane is listed one of the credits one of the producers of the series, despite the fact he does voice the grandfather, which he uses, like I said before in part 1, he uses the Master Roshi voice because the guy is kind of a pervert, just like Master Roshi is. Yep, so that's it for the review. Stay tuned for my review for the last 4 episodes of the series, the OVAs, and I'm really hoping to get to say the Goblin Slayer movie. That'll probably come up soon, okay? See you next video. Bye.